Hi, this is Mrs. Lemke, and I'm here to talk to you about order of operations. And I do think as you listen to this, you might be kind of thinking, well, I certainly know order of operations. I just, sometimes make mistakes and stuff. That very well could be true because order of operations is something that you've been taught in a lot of different math classes, probably. But that doesn't mean it isn't tricky. It is kind of tricky. So the idea of order of operations is so that we are communicating clearly as mathematicians. And without order of operations, we would get different answers for a problem because we would interpret it in different ways. And math kind of relies on everyone interpreting things the same way. So the way that it is organized is that you should do computations in the order that is listed here. So anything inside of a parenthesis, and there are certain things that are kind of implied parentheses. So there's like secret rules, you see. So like a large division bar means that you do the top and you do the bottom and then you divide. Okay, so like if there's operations within a numerator or within a denominator, you have to think of the top and the bottom as if they had parentheses around them. And you can even write them in if you feel like it. If you have a square root, okay, and say inside the square root it says 4 squared minus 3, you need to do the 4 squared minus 3 before you take the square root. So there are things like that where the parentheses are sort of understood or implied, and that makes that first one tricky right off the bat. After that, you do exponents. Multiplication and division have the same weight. Okay, so they're like the third step, as you can see in my colored picture here, and then adding and subtracting at the end. And this all pertains to situations where you just have numbers, not when you're solving. Okay, as we will see in our next lesson, with solving, you're trying to strip away the order of operations, so you go in reverse. Okay, but for today, we are just dealing with problems like this one in your notes, where we are trying to do things in the right order so that we can compute a solution. Now, sometimes I have observed students just trying to type all of this into their calculator, and then they come to great sorrow because they didn't type it in right. Trust your brain more than your fingers, man. I know you guys text a lot and all, and so maybe you think your fingers are very reliable, but if you ever have a typo in your text messaging, sometimes you might have a typo when you're typing on your calculator. So let's practice just trying to use the calculator in a selective way rather than trying to have the calculator do the whole problem at once. Okay, so I know from my order of operations I need to do this part first because it's in parentheses. And I remember saying just a moment ago that a large fraction bar like that is implied parentheses. So we are going to do the top of this fraction as a computation. And then after that, we will be dividing by the bottom of this fraction. And that's all that we're doing. Okay, so that part that I wrote with the numbers in blue, that's what we're going to do first. And the numbers that I am trying to write in green, you are going to just let those sit for a hot sec. Okay, now this is what I mean about using your calculator selectively. Certainly some of you, and I hope all of you actually, would be able to do 3 minus 4 times 7. But if that is actually something that's hard for you, you could do just that part, not the whole problem, okay? But 3 minus 4 times 7 is 28 is negative 25. So we can make use of that just doing that one little part and not getting all twisted around because we're trying to do everything on our calculator at the same time. Okay, now we still are prioritizing our parentheses, and this one I hope we can do in our head that 25 divided by 5 is 5. Now if not, again, you could use your calculator, but I do really think that you will be surprised at how much better your math skills get if you force yourself to think a little bit before you type. All right, now in this line of writing, this part is multiplication, this is subtraction, this is multiplication. And if you remember here, multiplying and dividing take precedence over adding and subtracting. So we're going to multiply these two numbers, which is negative 5, and we're going to multiply 2 times 24. And if we weren't sure about 2 times 24, we could just do this. Maybe we could do this. See what I mean? Sometimes, typing is not the easiest. Okay. And then I could do that last step on my calculator if I wanted to do that as well. Is the number going to be negative or positive? I hope you said negative. And is it going to be, like, which side of negative 48 would it be on? So if this is a number line and this is negative 48, right? Think of it like that. We want to go 5 units that way. So that'd be negative 53. Okay, so I'm just hoping you think about what things actually mean, hopefully a little bit, okay? All right, let's take a look at our second example. Okay, now this one is really crazy. It kind of looks like the person who typed this notes packet was trying to give you a tricky one to do. She was. All right, so we have parentheses inside of parentheses here. So I can see this kind of parenthesis matches this one. And then there's a parenthesis set around that. And then there's these curvy brackets around that. So with parentheses, if you have parentheses inside of parentheses, called nested parentheses, by the way, if you have nested parentheses, you do the innermost parentheses first. So in this case, that would be this part. 3 squared is 9, plus 1 is 10. So the part in the blue parentheses is 10. I am going to recopy the rest of this question with just the part that I have done taken care of. It's really important to stay organized in your writing because this is all about communication and details, okay? Now, we've taken care of inside the blue parentheses. Now I'm going to work on inside the red parentheses. So I'm just working on this part of the question, and I see some subtraction, and I also see multiplication between the 4 and the 10. I know that multiplication is more important, takes greater precedence than subtraction. So I'm going to think in my head about this as 32 minus 40. Okay, I also could go to my calculator and type 32 minus 4 times 10. Okay, so you have options there, but notice I didn't have to type any parentheses, even though this part of the problem is in parentheses, because I'm just taking like that little mini problem on. I don't need to worry about like bracket and bracket and bracket and all that on the calculator. Okay, so the part in the red parentheses I put in red. Everything I haven't touched yet, I'm just bringing down. Here are the green brackets. Here's the 2 that's sitting out there. Okay, so the red brackets have been handled. So now we need to work on the green brackets. Okay, inside the green parentheses or the green grouping symbols, I see subtraction. And then over here, I see multiplication. That's supposed to be an arrow. I mean, come on, Lemke. Arrows aren't even hard to draw. Sheesh. Okay, so subtraction and multiplication. Well, multiplication takes precedence. So I know that I need to do 64 minus positive 7 times negative 8. Positive 7 times negative 8 would give me negative 56. And then this is a subtraction sign that just comes down. Okay, if you're confused about the signs, this part is a negative number. And then the minus is there. Okay, so I have this problem to do. And if I'm subtracting a negative, that's the same as adding a positive. Again, you could use your calculator at this point if you wanted to, right? We could just add together 64 and 56 if that was tricky to us. Okay, this 2 is going to be right here. I don't know why I started writing sideways. I'm just doing crazy stuff, I guess. And 64 plus 56 is 120. And then 2 times 120 is 240. Okay, great. There are 2 more problems. These are pretty hard, okay, because there's a lot going on. But I have faith in you, okay? Now, let's just do a little analysis. Then I'm going to have you try this yourself and then come back and see if you got it right, okay? So this part, it has a giant fraction bar. So you're going to work on the top problem as its own problem and the bottom problem as its own problem. Now notice these parentheses here, don't really have anything going on inside of them. They were just added to emphasize the adding of a negative number, okay? They didn't want the person writing this thought that maybe that plus and that negative sign would like blur together. So that was really just a clarity kind of thing. That isn't anything that you have to do an operation inside that set of parentheses. And then over here, we have a bracket around this part. What operations are involved in here? It's just multiplication. It's multiplying three numbers together. Okay, so this is not something where you need to distribute. This is just multiply three numbers together. Take -5 times -1, get an answer, and multiply that by -5. Okay, so I'd like to just pause right here. Use your calculator in a smart way. Do not try to type this whole thing in as one problem. Do little mini parts of it, following order of operations, and then see where you are. Oh, one thing I did not mention, I just realized before, as I'm thinking about how you should work this. In this part here, there's a bunch of addition and subtraction. You're just going to do that left to right, okay? So just start at the left and go to the right until you're all set. But that's later. First thing you're going to do is deal with the red parentheses, okay? Thank you so much. Pause the video and then come back in a few to see if you got it right. Pause it. Okay, welcome back. So I remembered that division bar meant I had like a top problem and a bottom problem. I really don't have to worry about like blending together until I have the top and the bottom each worked out. So I know on the top, exponents would come before addition. So I did 2 to the third and got 8. Set that aside. On the bottom, I didn't do anything except work on the part in the red brackets. That was -25. But there was a subtraction sign in front of it. So it was subtracting -25. And I always think it's easier to think of subtracting a negative as adding a positive. So those are the little red lines that you see in my work. Then the top part, 8 plus 4 is 12. And if you do the arithmetic on the bottom, going left to right, all I have is adding and subtracting. So I just do my adding and subtracting. I got -3. And that final answer then, when I divide, is -4. Okay, there's another, a lot of busy stuff kind of question. Again, I want you to pause this and try. Come back when you're done. Okay, you have to actually try it first to build your skills. Come back when you're done and check your work. Okay, welcome back. We'll see how you did. This was my first step. Okay, the things that changed from the original problem to my first line of work include taking care of that exponent and doing this parenthesis. Now, I understand you might be saying, how can you do both of those in the same step? Well, the parentheses and the exponents aren't going to interact till way later, so I chose to kind of take care of them both in the same kind of line of work, just to reduce how much writing I had to do. Of course, you should write more if you're getting these questions wrong, okay? So when you become very good at order of operations, you can kind of see where you can take some shortcuts. But if you're not getting this kind of arithmetic question right, you need to write more, not less, okay? On the bottom, I took care of this set of parentheses here. Inside of this set of parentheses, I need to follow order of operations on a small case. So this exponent, that's these numbers here, and this subtraction inside of a mini parentheses is there, okay? Then in the next step, we really have to work on that bottom part. It's such a nightmare, okay? The top isn't too bad. All I did going from this step to the next one was the 4 times -3 became -12. And then the part that's inside the red brackets on the bottom, let me point out where that is. This part in the red brackets, that made -1. So from the green bracket to the green bracket up in this line of work, okay, up here, look down at this line of work and you can see where the green brackets kind of shrunk into because a lot of that red bracket took care of itself, okay? Then if you look at the denominator, we have green brackets still, so we need to do what's inside those parentheses. Okay, So inside those green brackets, 9 divided by -1 is -9. The top just had addition, so I just added positive and negative numbers accordingly. We got 15. On the bottom, you'll have -9 when you do that division plus 12, which is 3, for a final answer of 5. Now that you've finished this video, you need to show your teacher that you completed the video notes. Hopefully this will help you to be more successful than you were initially in reviewing this topic. Then you're going to work on the problem set. And just like with any other unit, the problem set needs to be included in your portfolio on Schoology. Thank you.